What's up? It's Vincent here, and I'm going to be continuing my Black Sabbath, Classic Sabbath, with the Master of Reality today. The camera angle is weird, and the lighting is probably complete shit, but you know what? Who cares? So, let's talk about Master Reality. The Master Reality is personally my favorite Black Sabbath album, probably. This record is just an absolute classic. It is an album that has influenced so many bands. It's kind of unreal, to be honest, how many bands that this thing influenced. Tons of them, tons of bands from a lot of different genres. And the influence is really lasting, too, you know. Bands today are still being influenced by the sound for some good reasons. So, Paranoid was obviously an album that showed that Black Sabbath, they had something going, you know. These were a group of guys who were going to stick around for a while. They weren't going to be just this kind of fad that was going to go away. You know, they were here to stay, and they were kind of building a following of people who really liked their music. And this album just takes what Black Sabbath did on Paranoid to the next level, and in an awesome way. So, some background info. His album came out in 1971, and this was around the time that Tony Iommi was having trouble with his guitar. And the reason is because Tony Iommi, for those of you who don't know, if you're a Sabbath fan, you do know this. If you're not, excuse me, you don't know this. But I'm going to say it anyway. Tony Iommi was working one day, and you can look it up on YouTube. It's a really funny story. He was, not funny, but he was working at a factory. And the funny thing about it was that he was actually going to leave the job that day, and his mom made him go to work. And he was working at the factory, and he usually did welding, but they wanted him to work on the machine, and so he's working on the machine, and this metal thing would come down to cut something in half, and like on a conveyor belt sort of thing. And he got it caught in his hand, and he pulled back, and it ripped the tips of some of his fingers off. And what he did, because he's a mad scientist, Tony Iommi, the son, he went home and he made plastic tips. I'm not even kidding. And he put leather over them so they could grip the guitar strings, and he could still play guitar. Unfortunately, that was becoming difficult for Tony around the time that this album was recorded. So what he did is he tuned his guitar lower so it would be easier for him to play, as did Geezer, because they needed to match up. So what you get is heavy. This album is heavy as fuck, and it contains so many elements that would influence one of my favorite genres of music, stoner metal and doom metal. And this album, man, is just, it's almost perfect. It really is. And I first heard this record. It was my first Black Sabbath album, and I remember it's what I call an instantly gratifying record. And by that, I mean the second you put it on, you like it. I mean, I listened to it, I was like, okay, Black Sabbath. I heard a lot about these guys, I'm sure I'm gonna like them. So, and it's funny now, because they're one of my favorite bands, but I, put the record on, and the second I heard, of Sweet Leaf, and that riff comes in, I was like, I'm gonna like this album. And I loved it, and it is the album that turned me on to Black Sabbath. So, the sound of this record, it's a progression from Paranoid. Paranoid was a lot heavier and less blues influenced, but still very bluesy, than their debut was. And Paranoid just kind of had the classics: War Pigs, Iron Man, Paranoid, you know, the works, just everything. And it was a very heavy album, and it was a very well-produced album. This album is a lot different, I find, because although it is still dark, like Paranoid is, and it's still heavy, this album kind of refines it, and it cuts a lot of the fat out of Paranoid, and makes the album a lot tighter, and more precise. For example, the production on this record is amazing. You get Tony Iommi's thick, and the production is very dry. There's not a whole lot of reverb on the album, which gives it a really desolate kind of sound, very raw sound, very direct, which helps the riffs come through really well. Tony Iommi just has this crunch, man. The guitar tone on this record takes Paranoid and just takes it to the next level. It's crunchy, it's heavy, it's fuzzy, and it's thick, and it's kind of psychedelic too. You know, and the thing I really love about Tony Iommi's guitar playing, especially on this record, is where this really comes out. He mixes the really, really thick, low end of his guitar tone with the really squealing, high, kind of piercing notes of his high-end tone. For example, Sweet Leaf. The first time he plays the riff, it just goes... But then the second time the riff is played, after the second verse comes on, he layers it with a wow 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 with a kind of wah wah effect, and it gets this really thick, dense wall of just riff with a really low end and a really high end to give the riff depth, and it's awesome. And he does that a lot on this album, and it's fantastic. So the production is awesome for that reason. Second thing is the rhythm section. Now, I praised Bill Ward and Geezer Butler on Paranoid because of how good of a rhythm section they are on that record. Well, I gotta tell you, Master Reality just continues the theme of taking that to the next level. Geezer's bass on this album is amazing. It is so heavy and thick and groovy. He's such a groovy motherfucker, Geezer Butler. He really is, man. His bass lines in this album, he refuses to not be heard, okay? Every song on this album, he's right there with Tony. He's right there just jamming, and you get this depth that I don't think any other Sabbath record has. This album is just so deep with sound, and Geezer's amazing bass playing really helps to bring that out. So, fantastic, absolutely amazing, you know, on Geezer Butler's part, and the production helps that come out. The drums, again, are amazing. Bill Ward and Geezer Butler work just amazingly on this record. Bill's drum tone is, very, very, what's the word, thumpy, and his cymbals are interesting. The ride cymbal sounds very thick, very heavy, very kind of just groovy, and his hi-hat sounds really thick. The toms sound amazing, very 70s feel to them, obviously. And then the bass drum has a really boom, boom, pa, boom, 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 pa. It has a really, really thick kind of thud to it that sounds really, really nice, and you can always hear this nice, thick bass drum sound. The snare also has a very, very classic kind of 70s sound to it, and his kit just sounds great. And Bill Ward on this album just reaches new levels. I mean, on Paranoid, he was very jazzy, very swingy, and this album he is too, but on this album, he focuses on the groove. Just the rhythmic groove that the riffs and bass lines kind of focus on this record. And it's awesome. So the production's fantastic. Ozzy's vocals I'll get to. But also the thing I like about this record is it is a riff-orientated record. Now, you could argue that Paranoid was too, but this album, every song just has these riffs that will never leave. Sweet Leaf, After Forever, Surgeon of the Grave, Into the Void, Lord of This World. Basically every song on the record has these riffs that dictate the rest of the song and help the band kind of chug along with the beats and bass lines and the vocals. The way the flow of this record is very interesting too. There's interjections, as in Embryo and Orchard, which are two little short interludes that together only make 2 minutes. And they're right before Children of the Grave and right before Lord of This World. And I'm a little mixed as far as these songs go, because are they good? Yes, absolutely. They are great solo pieces by Iommi. He shows that he can not only riff it up, but he can write some fantastic, soft, mellow parts as well, which would of course influence later albums like Volume 4 and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Sabotage, goes on. But he also said that the lighter the song was before, the heavier the next song would sound, which, that's badass. Come on, that's fucking badass. But part of me wishes that they were just taken up by full-length songs, because I love the sound so much, and I wish I could get more of it. You know what I mean? But that is a minor complaint, because the songs that you do get on this record are great and are infinitely awesome. And you could just listen to them again and again and again, as I have, and then not get bored, you know. I never get bored of the sound. I could listen to it over and over again, and I love it. I just love it. The atmosphere on this record, too, is very, very dark. Paranoid was very dark, too, but this record has a ambience, almost, sort of, where the messages are very cerebral and very heavy. The subject matter is fantastic. You get everything from Sweet Leaf, which is about Ozzy's favorite plant. Winky winky. You guys know what I'm talking about. After Forever, which actually is a very important song in Sabbath's catalog, because it highlights the fact that they believed in God. So all the people who say they were Satanists, fuck off. Listen to After Forever and you'll see what's up. Children of the Grave, which is, again, it's another example of a title being misleading for Black Sabbath. I'm sure when people heard this song, they thought, it's about just a bunch of kids who come up from a grave and kill people. It's not. It's the 70s, Vietnam War was still going on. So it's about a generation of kids who are unhappy in the present state of how the world is, and how they want to change it, and instead make it a world based off of love and peace, and come together and change the world for the better, which is an awesome topic. And it's a topic that I highly, highly sympathize with, because kids my age always want to fight each other, and they're always ready to be aggressive towards each other. And this song speaks very highly to me, and I love it very much. It's amazing, amazing riff, amazing bass playing, and great drum groove, and just great vocals by Ozzy. Lord of This World, which is about, actually, it's in the perspective. I'm sorry, that was disgusting. Is in the point of view of Satan, and how he's talking to his followers and saying that they're dumb for following him, because he's just there to fuck them over, pretty much, and get what he needs from them. Then there's Into the Void, which is one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs, and it is about how Earth is being polluted, and we're gonna die soon. The Earth is gonna just get destroyed. So we have to, I'm not kidding, relocate to another planet, get sent off into space, and relocate to another planet where we can start over again, and love and peace and happiness is in every day of our lives, and to start over, which is an awesome concept. Ozzy's vocals on this record are fantastic, very melodic, very powerful. The production really makes them stand out, and they're really above the mix, but not too much. You can hear the vocals perfectly, and they're thick and heavy, and they're very big. The vocals sound big, and the effect that's on them is very psychedelic and very heady, which I think is amazing and fantastic. It's another thing I like about it is it's actually kind of a short record. I believe it's like 30. It's a little over 30 minutes. I believe it's like 32 minutes, somewhere around there. So it's a short affair, but a classic one. And then there's Solitude, and Solitude's the only song I have not talked about yet. Solitude is the soft track on the record, and when I say the soft, I mean because that's what I'm calling it. Every Sabbath album has a softer song, or multiple, and this song is it. And Solitude is a song that I actually didn't really love when I first heard the album. It took a little while to grow on me, but now I love it. It's kind of reminiscent of Planet Caravan. You have the flute, you have that very ambient, kind of desolate dissonance that song had. Very, very dark, very cerebral and somber. and just an awesome, awesome song. The little wind chime kind of in the background is very epic, very chilling, and very atmospheric, and it just adds to the dark, heavy, somber, and cerebral, maybe even ethereal kind of atmosphere and vibe that this album is going for, and it fits so well right in the heavy songs because it's using a different means of songwriting and songcraft to bring out that vibe, and it's just a different way of expressing that feeling and darkness through the album. So I could just go on about this record, but really, and I already reviewed this album actually, by the way, but it sucked. So this is a much better review. So don't think I'm just doing it to get more views or whatever. This is just part of the series. I might even delete that old review, but maybe not. But I could just go on about this record. It is a classic Sabbath record, man. It really is. I love it. It shows why they were so influential. It shows why Sabbath were a band that was here to just keep innovating. They weren't going to be a band that just makes that one album that really kind of blows people away and then repeating the same thing over and over again. Every album they did was a progression, but it was, all of it was just classic Sabbath. It was their own sound that they just finely tuned on every record and showed really what they were about and why they were such an important band that wasn't going away anytime soon. So, 9.7. I'm going to have to give this album a 9.7. I just sometimes wish that Embryo and Orchard were full-length songs, but at the same time, the record really is perfect length, and I don't think I really would change it if I could. So, Master Reality. Classic, amazing, fantastic, just one of my favorite albums of all time, and this video has already been too long, so I love this record. Subscribe, comment, share with your friends, and we got Volume 4 next, so stay tuned, and thank you guys. Thanks.